Welcome back to At Home with Music. I'm Leon Olguin, or Leon if you prefer the English pronunciation. Olguin, however, you got to keep pronouncing it that way because there's no other way to say it. Now, we've talked about making sure that your child, your student, has the resources they need in their study of the arts, whether it be music or drawing or painting or writing or acting or whatever it might be. And you want to make sure that they have the time to pursue these things. But you don't want to force them to spend more time than they really want to spend if they want to move on to something else. You've got to give them that flexibility because true learners, sometimes they'll go from subject to subject, but they'll end up learning a lot, just kind of following their own desires at the time. Of course, there's going to be times when your student, there are certain things they've got to master. They've got to learn math. They've got to learn spelling. They've got to learn proper grammar and so on. But in the arts, there can be a little bit more flexibility. So, resources, time, and then finally, creativity. You want to encourage creativity in your child's study of the arts. Now, being a musician, this is the area that I emphasize, and I'm going to talk mostly about what it means in study of music. Now, when you have a child that's taking traditional piano lessons, and this is how it was for me, of course, we're going back, 60 or 50 years at least, but it may still be that way for a lot of piano students today. They learn to read the notes, which is great. Every musician should learn how to read music. But then their whole time is spent learning how to play pieces by reading the notes. And perhaps you've heard of piano players who are great players, but without their music, they're lost. They can't play. That's one of the things that I teach in the Music Basics series and in the From Ears to Fingers series is how to play without music. And maybe your child wants to learn to just create their own music. You want to encourage them to do that. That's how many of the great composers became great composers, because they were given the freedom to just make stuff up. I remember when I was taking piano lessons, I wanted to be a composer as well. And so I would sit there at the piano and experiment with different musical ideas and trying to learn how to improvise. And my dad would say, now cut that out and get back to your lesson. You got to learn that piece. And I did, because I was trying to be a dutiful student. But the more I just really wanted to create as well. And so you want to make sure that your child has that freedom to create if they're studying music. Now, in the way I teach keyboard, as you'll see if you go through the Music Basics series and the From Ears to Fingers, they're going to learn the basics of things that they need to know. They need to know how to read music. They need to know where the notes are on the clef. They need to know where the keys are on the keyboard. But at the same time, we're not just concentrating on reading music. That's part of it. But we also want to concentrate on creating beautiful sound through experimentation, through a little bit of trial and error, just learning to make the sounds that sound good to you, and not necessarily the right notes and the wrong notes according to your teacher. Now, those things are really important if you're going to play classical music. Obviously, you want to hit the right notes. But if you're making things up, you might hit a note and you don't like it, so you don't play that the next time and you try something different. You may use a chord with a melody and you don't like the way that chord sounds, and so you try a different chord. And you find the things that sound good to you. One of the rules I have when I teach music this way is, if it sounds good, it is good. Because most of us, we know what sounds good to us. You just want to give your students the freedom to be creative. There is a time when they've got to master the basics. They've got to learn the proper fingering, or they've got to learn the chords. They've got to learn progressions and so on. But there's also times when you can just let them goof around. Even if they're just playing heart and soul, they're still playing by ear. They're still doing something that's fun. And the last thing you want is for their studies in music or any of the arts to become drudgery, or to become something that they dread and they want to quit as soon as possible. So there's another way that you can encourage your child, encourage your student in their study of the arts. Make sure they have the resources they need. Make sure they have the time that they need. And I know that can be difficult because life can get really busy. And make sure that they have the freedom to be creative. And I'll have a lot more to talk about when it comes to creativity. That's a vast and fascinating subject, and one in which there is, unfortunately, some misconceptions concerning creativity. But I'll talk about that in a different video. So, coming up, we're going to continue our series on From Medieval to Modern, music history that is, also studying the lives of great composers, getting some snapshots of their life and their work, and in conjunction with that, we'll talk about some of the great works of art that these composers produced. I'll also highlight some great performances of these works of art, and we'll include some links to. There's so many great performances on YouTube of classical music, popular music, all kinds of great music. And so I look forward to sharing those with you as we continue on through this new year of 2022. Thanks for watching. I encourage you to like, subscribe, and share this channel with other homeschool families that you know. I would like to reach as many as possible in the coming year.